Father, we thank you for the opportunities and blessings we have living here in Canby and the opportunity to serve our community. Please guide us as we lead our community, hopefully in the way you would choose. And I ask, Lord, that you be with those who are really needing you right now, those that are ill and hurting. There are those that we know in our circles that really could use your hand right now. Bless the military, shield and protect those who are serving in harm's way. These things we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is that what it is? Look at that. All right. Next on the agenda is communications. Anything from fine people, city staff over there to the right.
Look at the smiles.
Just smile.
The lawyer smiling. The lawyer smiles.
I always
The lawyer smiles. Our first opportunity this evening for citizen input and community announcements. If you are so inclined, this is first opportunity really anything on non-agenda items. So if you want to speak to us, please fill out the yellow card and bring that over to Kim, and we'll get you right up here. David, do you want to give that to Kim there, and then I'll let you take the podium, sir.
I'm first, huh?
Yep, you're up first.
Great. We're not being televised for the television? We are?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
Great.
Yeah.
Star here.
Please, yeah, have a seat and tell us your name and what can we do for you.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys know who I am, but I suffered a brain injury a couple decades ago, so I'm not able to drive. And I'm trying to get work in the Portland area. And, there's not a lot of work here in Canby, so you're probably aware of that. And I found jobs in the Portland area, but I cannot get down. I cannot get there because most of these jobs require me to work nights or weekends, and CAT doesn't run those times. So what I'm asking for is, you're okay. All I'm asking for is you're okay. I mean, it won't cost you any money. Is you're okay just to tell TriMet it's okay for them to bring me to Canby. That's it. Because CAT kicked them out. They don't run into Canby. I mean, it won't cost you a cent. I just need your okay for TriMet.
Yeah, so I know that you were having some conversation with our city recorder before the meeting this evening, and definitely need to get some contact between Mr. Sargent here and with Julie and Kat and find out what we can do, what we can get worked out. I know we do not have a static route, obviously, in Canby. We're working on getting back to that. The big piece is it's a dial-a-ride service, which, as you said, it runs.
I do use CAT.
Yeah, and it runs, not until that far into the evening, like you said, when it's working, and it doesn't generally run on the weekend. So,
but these jobs I'm trying to get require me to work night times and weekends. So
okay,
and because of that, like I said, I've lost jobs.
okay. Can we have his information to get with Julie and?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. David, please work with Julie, and we'll definitely see what we can get done.
Okay.
Can't guarantee anything, obviously, but
it's out of your hands.
I suspect that you're probably not the only one that has those issues in terms of getting back here after 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening, or getting weekend support for that. So we'll definitely do what we can, and we'll see what we can work
Honestly,
out.
for the big bus, they usually have just a lift bus, small one.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they have in the past. They've got a contract through the Broadway taxi service, and sometimes Broadway brings me home.
And that's something that's worked out with TriMet in that regards, or?
Yeah, they've did that before. So
Okay.
TriMet leases them out or something. They got a contract with them.
Okay.
But you guys have kicked out Broadway cabs too,
Have we?
because it's contracted through TriMet.
Interesting.
Well, maybe we can make a note of looking into that piece as well, if we can, Amanda and Joe, on the Broadway piece. I know we don't have exactly a taxi cab service here in Canby necessarily, and Uber doesn't come out here, but, not yet. But we can definitely look into that aspect as well. I think that would be helpful, or maybe see what Julie can find out on that front. So we'll definitely see what we can find out for you, David, and we'll see.
Get back to me.
Yeah, somebody will get
Okay.
back to you, and I'll follow up as well and make sure
Okay.
we get you some answers or figure something out, okay?
So it's out of your hands.
A little bit. I mean, it's, that's, in terms of the whole decision on, CAT versus TriMet, as we were talking, that came about 12, 13 years ago, and that was a decision that was made by the council then, and I don't think TriMet would probably very much love to be able to
Well, yeah,
run,
that-
a route or two out here.
That's what they told me.
And that was the big concern back then, was that TriMet was only running,
Yeah.
in the mornings and then
Plus
back
they're-
out and then in the evenings, and so we needed more service than what TriMet
Yeah.
would provide for
I
us.
understand that there's not enough customers here in Canby for TriMet to run use all that gas. I totally understand that.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. I think it's a dollars and cents piece too.
Taxes.
Yeah, they charge our businesses
Yeah.
more than CAT does, and
Yeah.
oh yeah, that we could probably fill the hall here if we wanted to talk CAT tax if
Yeah.
we wanted to.
Money,
Put that on the
money's always the
agenda.
bottom line.
Just kidding. Really,
haven't seen enough those.
you're not going to be around for that one.
I was told by many people in Canby that I'd be wasting my time just to talk to you about it, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Well, I don't think it's ever a waste of time to come and talk to us,
not.
because if anything, it's an education piece for us to find out what's going on and what we can do. And I think it's if you don't come and tell us, we don't know.
Well, I mean, before, when I was working in Portland and they were bringing me back and forth, the cat service was running too, so I was wondering why they changed.
So a couple years ago, a lot of it changed due to when the
Taxes.
economy changed.
Oh,
Payroll
okay.
taxes kind of cut into their operating funds, so they had to look at. That's why they peeled away the static routes that we had and went to more of the dial-a-ride piece. And so we've been trying to, as the economy's come back, build up our operating funds so that we will be able to, hopefully soon, and soon in government speak is 5, who knows? I'm not even going to put a
Yeah.
time frame on it, but
Don't hold your breath.
yeah, don't hold yours either.
I understand. I work with the government.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be getting back to those pieces of it. That I know is our goal up here as a council, and I know that that's our transit director's goal.
But of
as
course,
well.
the city government's much better, right? Much more fair, right?
We try to be.
Okay, I understand.
So in terms of so for us, we don't do the day to day. That's where our trusted people to the right do that for us, and so we'll have them dive into it, take a look
Nice
at it,
to meet you.
and see what we can get into. Okay, and get figured out. All right, David.
So,
Thank you for
Yeah, but thank you for coming and telling
so
us.
just mark down on the paper. What should I mark down on the paper? It says it gives 2 boxes, right?
Here, you can just write your phone number on here.
Okay.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Kim. And then Beverly, when we get to talking about the ordinance piece, we will let you have a moment and talk to us about that, okay?
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Moving into mayor's business, I want to hope that everyone got in touch with their inner Irish self and had a great St. Patrick's Day yesterday. I am part Irish, so I did enjoy St. Patrick's Day, as one with 3 kids and working can do. C4, Clackamas County Coordinating Committee meeting at the beginning of the month. I did not attend, but the conversation was more about the retreat here in late spring and more about the act that's being put together. Our Julie Whaling our transit director was selected as the rural transit representative to the ACT body, so that'll be a good piece. So that's a nice piece to have on for us to be much closer to that. Attended the county's growth summit that they had last week, and it was just a really big, just kind of brought everyone together to talk about kind of where the county's going, what are we looking at, but more specifically hearing from the cities in terms of successes, opportunities, what's going on. And so a lot of the conversation obviously came down to talking about transportation and the needs for road improvements, and then industrial lands. Where are those going to be? How do we designate that? And then a bigger conversation kind of ensued in terms of what's the county's identity. And we've got so many different topographical pieces that kind of mountainous and all these different rivers, and so do we want to be, or can we ever be like a Washington County or a Multnomah County in terms of our growth and what we wanted to do. So it was the first of, I think, probably a couple of conversations. It was surprisingly lightly attended by, I think we were outnumbered county people to city people by 3 to 1. But there was a couple of metro people there, and I think they started to hear some of the pieces about land use and land development and housing and things that we're going to be heavily seeing happen on the outskirts, so like Canby and other parts of Clackamas County. I had a meeting with Commissioner Savas earlier this week, talked about the connection to I-5, the county fairgrounds, and tourism. So definitely some things on the horizon there to just keep contacting and talking to the commissioners about. We also had our first 2 library meetings earlier this month. So for those of you who know, we're in the middle of building the new civic building. So we had the first 2 meetings to kind of talk about the design for the civic building and the library. I really thought it was really great dialogue that occurred. We averaged about 30 people total each night, and I was really thought we'd get more people than that. I really was expecting, I would have liked to have seen standing room only, but whatever the turnout was, it was really good dialogue and some really good things were shared. I think there still needs to be some more conversation on the look of the building. I think the second night was only, maybe a 5 or 10 minute conversation part of that evening. So I know we'll see with the next meetings here in April. I suspect when we actually see some pictures coming back in, we'll start to see hopefully some more dialogue on the look of that. And then I think probably, and I'm looking to you, Amanda, in terms of there are probably some conversation pieces that I don't know, maybe from up here in terms of the city council or the second floor in terms of what we're doing, what we need. Is that,
I think on
are we out of that conversation?
April
or
15th,
April
the
15th?
architects come back to you and present to the board and the agency everything that they've collected in the 5 meetings preceding that. And then to get some feedback and direction from the agency.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So that concludes things for me. Councilor Rocha.
I would like to say I had something, but I wasn't here for 2 weeks, so I don't have anything to report tonight.
Okay.
I'm not having a tan. It was cloudy. And I was there.
So I know you just got back from your whirlwind vacation, but and maybe Councilor Height can help answer this as well. If there's been, what conversation is occurring in terms of the library, in terms of fundraising and what's going on there? Do we know?
Fundraising for which?
For the aspect of the library.
Oh, for FF&Es?
Yes. So if you want to explain what FF&E is.
Furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Thank you, sir.
I haven't had any direct conversations. I haven't heard any conversations on fundraising. I've had conversations with library director on what the Urban Renewal Agency is legally able to pay for. And the idea is you take the building, you turn upside down, shake it, whatever falls out, you can't pay for. So I've talked to her about more built-in stuff if possible. But I haven't had any conversations on Friends of the Library or anybody else who's doing any fundraising, and maybe Councilor Height can talk to that a little bit. I haven't heard anything, but I can ask we can ask at the next library meeting.
Yeah, I think, do you know anything at all?
They postponed their foundation meeting, their library foundation. They didn't meet this month.
Okay.
I think in April they'll meet again.
Okay.
And maybe Amanda knows more too about potential fundraising position.
Our library director spoke with, I don't recall his name off the top of my head, but a potential fundraising consultant, and I believe we are meeting with him next week.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's great. I figure we're steamrolling along here. We should, that should be,
Updates would probably be good, because we know what's needed and
yes. I
hate
think that would be good.
Yeah.
Just make sure everything's moving along the way we want it to, and see it open successfully and
Yes.
open well. So, all right. Thank you, sir. Councilor Parker.
Thank you. I'm glad Councilor Rocha is back. I need all the adult supervision on this dais that I can provide. I also attended the library meeting, and yeah, I was a little bit disappointed and surprised at the lack of attendance on that. But it is possible that from up here we get a different perspective of residual questions of trust and commitment, that it may be that we need to completing this project for people to understand where we are on this, given where we were. So I've talked to a few people that I knew were at the first round of library planning a year and a half ago, and two of them said that they just got burned out from the process. So that's okay, and I'll own up to owning some of that. But I think the proof is in the pudding, and when we get that building constructed, I'm hoping that it further rebinds the trust between constituents and the council. So that's all I have today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I likewise attended both nights of the civic building planning meetings. And the theme of being a little disappointed in the turnout continues with me as well. And I, of course, did the math and counted heads. And by the time we deducted all the staff and electeds and committee folks, we had about 11 people, the average Joe types at each meeting. So I was a little disappointed in that. And I'm hoping that, with this coverage in the paper and some more talk about the plans, that maybe the April meetings will have a better turnout. I'm hopeful for that. I attended the Community Leader Roundtable with Congressman Kurt Schrader last week. And that meeting is an opportunity for us to give him feedback on the needs in our areas, rather than him kind of telling us what's going on at the federal level. It's us going to him. There was a big focus on education. There were many school board members, superintendents, and the like at the meeting, in addition to the city leaders. But there was a lot of talk about education, so he decided that maybe it would be a good idea to have some kind of an education summit with those folks at another time. And then the conversation shifted to infrastructure. And I again brought up our I-5 connection and, the wish for some funding that is asphalt, not rail, which did actually spark a conversation about the STIP process and the strings that are attached. And he did acknowledge that there were a lot of strings attached, and it can be a cumbersome project or a cumbersome idea getting the funding for that, and that it actually adds to the project to have STIP funding. He did acknowledge that, although we didn't really hear anything in the way of a solution to that. But he did suggest that maybe we would have another work group for an infrastructure type summit as well. So we'll look to hopefully having some conversations about that kind of thing in the future. Traffic Safety Commission, the Postal Wait Neighborhood Association had a representative come in and request that the no parking zone on the west side of Redwood between 11th and 12th be extended about a half a block. And because the cars parked along there, making it practically impossible to safely turn onto Redwood.
I pull out there every morning, get this, see?
Well, and as it turns out, I actually had a constituent reach out to me this week, kind of on the opposite end of that. So the conversation will be continuing at the next Traffic Safety Commission meeting. And I'm suggesting to that person that they come and air their grievances at that meeting so that both sides of that story can be heard. We also are having Mike Himmelstrand from the Bike and Ped Committee came in, noted some problems in the areas for cyclists, and he will be attending regularly from here on, it sounds like. And that, I believe, is the end of my report this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Council President Dale.
Mr. Mayor, Canby Utility is continuing its interview process for general manager, and I got to meet a few of them at a lunch that they hosted. Thank you very much, Bob, for a great lunch. And stay tuned as they continue with their process. And also, starting at next week's Canby Utility meeting, which is 7 o'clock in the building next door at Canby Utility headquarters, they'll begin discussing whether we'll need to look at having a water rate increase this year. So if anyone is interested, please attend. That's 7 o'clock right next door at Canby Utility headquarters. And that's all I have.
Water rate increase, huh?
What day was that, I'm sorry?
Pardon?
7 p.m.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Apparently, Tracy's going to be there.
They're just starting to talk about it. So.
So that's next Tuesday, Canby Utility, if you want to hear about water rate increases.
You're concerned that it may not be high
Maybe
enough?
increases.
Just Canby-
Trying to buck up the attendance at the CUB meetings for Bob. It's like we're talking about one-way streets, isn't
Maybe.
it?
Oh, boy.
No, they are not contemplating one-way streets, solar power, or windmills, right?
That's good.
Yeah, no, not next week anyway. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Hyde.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So I was there with Tracy at the Kurt Schrader Westland town hall, well, not town hall, but council meeting. And there were, you're right, Tracy, there were more educators, I think, than counselors maybe, than city folk, which was interesting, or maybe it was a mixture. But also, the superintendent, Tripp Goodall, was there, and one of the school board members, Andrea Weber. So that was good representation in Canby. But from their point of view, they talked about dual enrollment options for kids, for our Canby High kids, so that they can take courses at the high school and get college credit, saves them a few bucks on college tuition. So Tripp talked about that. They're wanting the federal government to also help out with the Disabilities Education Act, which is a mandate. So it's wanting funding, it's wanting the federal government to make sure that they're having a role in helping fund these mandates really at the local level. So local control was that was a theme, I'd say. They also someone brought up the Willamette Falls Legacy Project to Schrader as well, and I think he just sort of cautioned to tread carefully to make sure that we're going into it wisely, not to overreach. So he's well aware of the project, yeah. And then the library board meeting, there was a StoryCorps grant they didn't get, but they were a close enough runner-up, and that's basically capturing local history. So that grant would have given technological equipment and interview training to library staff so that we could record our rural kind of history from local folks. We didn't get that, but as a runner-up kind of prize, they'll train the staff anyway. They won't give us equipment, but we can still kind of carry on our own and conduct interviews, so that's pretty cool. The architects and Melissa and the whole project team apparently toured some of the other metro area libraries last week too, to get ideas. So Melissa talked about that, and it sounds like they're going to interview for the general contractor positions in mid-April. That's slated. They're discussing their annual budget for the library, and so they're looking at different options and what their scenarios might be. They definitely, if they come up short, they're definitely going to want to keep the library open as many weekdays as possible, or just their current service hours. So they're going to pull for that as much as possible. But they're a bit concerned, and they're a bit concerned about the project budget too, which we'll be talking about, I'm sure, with our urban renewal budget and how the new library, how many square feet are going to come out of this for the library itself. So there's a concern. The more communication we have with the library board and Melissa, the better, for sure, to keep that relationship open, like Greg was talking about. Yeah. Canby Adult Center, just yesterday, I think they had their Share a Meal, which is an annual fundraiser in which they invite local businesses to pay, I think, $10, and they deliver the meals to the business. So they get to experience what the adults, the senior citizens, eat at the Adult Center, and that's pretty nice. It's a good kind of community outreach they do, good fundraising. They're getting ready for their Spring Bazaar, which is April 25th. And they said that Canby High School, you know, they have their spring musical every year. It was just last weekend. They offer the senior citizens to come for free. There's a spaghetti dinner. I didn't realize this. So every year they get to watch a dress rehearsal, the spring musical there at the high school, and get a free spaghetti meal. That's cool. It's just good. I'm glad they do that. And they got a grant from Rotary recently for their computer lab. It's another example of our great city service groups contributing to other entities, like the library gets grants regularly from Kiwanis and whatnot. It's just really good that these groups work together so well. I think that's great. What else? Community meetings. I went to the Hope Village one last week, and the attendance, you know what, though, when I think back to those community meetings we had a couple years ago, it was similar attendance, actually, when we had them at the police station. And so I think that's probably that's to be expected, maybe. And the architects did say they would take into account all the input we had back then 2 years ago. That's all been kept. So they can sift through the notes of the other people that showed up then and weren't here,
I didn't know that. That's
yeah, so they're not going to just throw out the whole visioning that happened 2 years ago, which is good for the public to know. I think that we're not totally starting from scratch. What else? Oh, in terms of school board, their meeting is tomorrow. They're going to discuss full-day kindergarten, so I'll have a good report for you next time.
Perfect.
Trip Goodall was hired as the permanent superintendent, so he's in now long-term,
Great.
which is exciting. Canby Community Preschool Auction is coming up April 11th. I'm a big fan. I was on that board for a while. It's the only co-op preschool in town, and it's their big yearly fundraiser. It keeps the doors open. They serve about 60 families in town. It's a great place. And then today is International Transit Driver Appreciation Day. So there was a little a little banquet or a little barbecue lunch at the CAT office today, and because I'm liaison, I went and hung out, and it was fun.
Good for
So met some drivers, and yeah, it's a good time.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to take note at our last meeting, Councilor Parker stated that ODOT appeared to be working one day and then taking 4 days off. And I think they must have watched that last meeting because they've been working at a much steadier pace.
Thank you for spurring them on.
To build on Councilor Hensley, traffic safety-wise, at Knight Elementary School on Grant Street, Public Works installed a new digital crosswalk at Knight Elementary School, and the school is very excited about it. Now they want one on Home.
Yeah.
The project in front of the high school, which involves sidewalks on 4th Street, expected to be complete around the last week of April. And one of the things they're excited about is the design team at the high school is coming up with some graphics for the raised crosswalks. That's going to be exciting to see that unveiled. On the planning department front, worked together with our planning director, Brian Brown. He developed an interview process for planning commissioner candidates, and I'm very pleased to announce that we interviewed our first candidate under this new format. Outstanding young woman candidate, and so we expect her to be appointed in the coming meetings. On the library meeting, I attended the first library planning meeting at the police department. It was very informative. I thought it was very interesting. Whereas this particular firm doesn't necessarily specialize in libraries, but have tremendous experience, how they brought in an expert from the outside that has been involved in about 80 different libraries and showed us this film and talked about how libraries have changed over the years, and really interesting stuff. And what I took away from the meeting is that our community wants a really solid structure that's not ultra-modern, that is just a timeless design. Over the weekend, I attended the Canby Rodeo Coronation for the 2015 Rodeo Court. And what that event does, it's an auction and dinner, and the funds that are raised really are specifically for the court, because they go all around the state and visit the various rodeos and represent our community. There were 230 folks in attendance. It was a lot of fun. And this year, one of our princesses and our queen are from Oregon City, and a princess from Aurora, so keeping it local. Also, one of the things I'm really excited about is I'm from St. Paul, Oregon, and Miss Rodeo Oregon is actually from St. Paul, Oregon, so she'll be crowned this weekend in St. Paul. And lastly, I'd just like to commend our Canby Police for their coordinated efforts with our neighboring police forces to pursue the farm equipment thieves in the area. we're just very fortunate to have such an outstanding police and fire. And I just encourage everyone to thank our fellow officers and firefighters. I took them 3 dozen cookies this last Friday from Cuts Forth, and made me feel good. So that's all I have to
I'm
do.
sure they refused. I'm sure they turned those down, right? Yeah. Great. Well, thank you all. Appreciate that very much. Good reports. We'll move into the consent agenda this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the minutes of the March 4th, 2015 City Council regular meeting and a new outlet liquor license application for the FOB Tap Room LLC.
I second.
Perfect. Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes of the March 4th, 2015 City Council regular meeting and a new outlet liquor license application for FOB Tap Room LLC. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Passes 6-0. Does anybody know what FOB stands for?
Right on board.
Freight on board?
That's usually what it
Okay.
thinks.
Somebody threw
I
out
got it, but I won't say them.
foam on beer.
Friends of beer.
Friends of beer. Yeah, that could be. Here we go. All right. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right. Next on our agenda this evening is the public hearing for a noise variance application for the Canby Swim Club. And Kim, I'm assuming the legislative one. Thank you very much. So the matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow comment card, as seen here, and give it to KMR City Recorder. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hands at this time. Great, thank you. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. We will have the staff report, questions, if any, by the hearing body or staff. We will open the public testimony or public hearing for testimony. We will hear from the proponents for not more than 2 minutes. Opponents for not more than 2 minutes. We will close the public hearing, questions, if any, by the hearing body, and then discussion by the hearing body. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the hearing? All right. So we will go into the staff report.
Okay, a request has been received from the Canby Gator Swim Club for a noise variance on May 9th. It's from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is the 11th year of the event. The variance is being requested for the North Lake Physical Therapy Gator Grinder Triathlon. Last year, there was a complaint that was received by a patrol officer regarding the noise level. After the event, the code enforcement officer worked with the applicant and encouraged them to apply for a noise variance to ensure compliance and notification to surrounding property owners. The applicant has requested the DJ this year turn down the bass on their equipment, and the applicant has to provide addresses of residents within 200 feet. And they actually provided me with addresses of residents within 600 feet. So that notice went out at least 10 days prior to the event. The police chief has signed off on the application. And we did receive a letter today that was delivered that the council has asking that you not approve it. And the applicant is here if you have questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions or thoughts of the applicant at this point? Or I should say of staff at this point? No? All right. Well, then I will open up the public hearing, and we'll open up to proponents. So if you're in favor of or going to say for the event, not seeing any, we'll move on to opponents. Oh, yes, please, come on up.
I'm the applicant,
Oh.
race director, do I?
Yeah, if you'd like to come up.
Want to talk, or-
Yes, please.
Okay. Do I give you the yellow card?
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no problem. Never done this before, so just
Tell us your name and talk about the event if you'd like, and any information that we should know about the event or about the noise ordinance or...
okay. My name's Chip Greendale. I'm the race director for the triathlon, the Gator Grinder Triathlon. The triathlon is a fundraiser for the swimming pool, for the swim team on the swimming pool. It's our largest fundraiser. We've done it. This is our 11th year. We bring approximately, probably about 280 racers to town with their families and all that. Many of them come the weeks before to train on the course, so it brings a lot of new money into Canby. We went this way, one of the reasons we went this way was the swim club traditionally, and a lot of organizations sell magazines, sell plants, et cetera, so aunts and uncles and grandparents so the money is all coming from the families. This is a great way to bring in other money, and it brings money into town because a lot of other people stop for lunch or gas or groceries or whatever. We've had music at our race for, I believe we started in the 4th year with a DJ, and we've never had a complaint before. The music is probably 15 feet from the transition area, and I am in the transition area all day long and have to talk to people. And if the music's too loud for me to talk to people and hear them, it gets turned down, so it's not that loud, and I don't hear so well. So it's a great opportunity for. The thing I like about it is it's a great race for the kids because they get to see that. When you're young, you get to play, you get to race, you get to go to, you have a swim meet, you get nervous beforehand and all that stuff, and they get to see that, gosh, when you're an adult, you can do the same thing. They see their parents and other people setting goals for themselves, challenging themselves, and completing the event. The first year we had the race, we require all our parents on the swim club to work the race as volunteers, and we first year we had someone that just called me up and read me the riot act about how they had to work, so there's swim meets you got to do, there's this, and the swim club has so many requirements for them to do, and this was just over the top. I saw him on race day, and he said it was the best time he'd ever had in his life because he's seeing everyone that came down to the finish line had these smiles on that were huge. So it's a good event for the community, it's a good event for the club, it's a good event for the swim team, it's a good event for the people that do it. We also we've sold out every year of the race traditionally within an hour or two, so it's a very popular event. So I think that's what I have.
Chip, what time does I know the event starts at about 7:30 in the morning.
It does at 7:30.
Does the DJ start about that time as well?
Thereabout, yeah.
Thereabout, okay. Great.
And we're usually done and out of there I'm usually gone by 1:30, and I'm the last one to leave, so probably by 12:30 everything's pretty much over.
Okay. Great.
Okay?
Any questions at all for Chip?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, actually, I do.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted, if this is the appropriate time to address that there was a complaint last year, what precautions are in place to correct some of the things that maybe some people were concerned with last year?
The only thing, the lady who called me last year said that she felt like there was drumming going on. And so I asked the DJ to turn down the bass, and I'll have him turn it down this year. We did have a new DJ last year. The music didn't sound any louder, but sometimes if the underlying bass is up, it can, it can travel more. We did have several Canby police officers do the race, and I talked to them or talked to people that talked to them, and none of them said that they thought the music was too loud. And they were in the transition area. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Chip.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
good
you.
luck with the event. And then, Beverly, did you want to? Yeah.
I wrote what I was going to say because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to say.
No, that's okay.
First of all, I would like to thank the City of Canby for notifying me of this noise variance hearing today. Last year, I went to my kitchen to make coffee on the morning of the Gator Grinder, and all I could hear was thump, thump, thump of someone's very loud speaker system. My windows were closed, so I went outside, and I could hear music playing from the swim center, clear enough to name that tune, and I live 2 blocks away. I thought it was unreasonably loud and called the non-emergency police number and was told that an officer was there and they would call me. The officer did call me and politely told me that it was a fundraiser and it was to have fun. When I asked him if they had noise variance, he indicated they did. I was angry that an event at the Canby Swim Club with a noise variance was allowed to make unlimited noise on an early Saturday morning. I then wrote the City of Canby requesting information about how to be made aware of noise variance applications and was told that the Canby Swim Club had not gotten a noise variance at all. That is why I'm here today to respectfully and strongly request that a noise variance needs to be denied as the music is played well above the level necessary to have fun at 7:30 on a Saturday morning. I highly doubt that any participant who is obviously health conscious would feel that the music needs to be played loud enough to be heard 2 blocks away to have fun or to make the event more successful. Thank you for considering to deny this variance.
Okay, great. Thank you, Beverly. Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question for Joe.
Yeah.
Reading through the text here, the memo, Joe, it wasn't quite clear. Is the variance because it's earlier or because it's louder than we would normally?
I think it's because it's, I don't think it is clear necessarily what they're asking. I believe it's because it's consistently above a certain decibel level.
The code enforcement officer told them she thought it would be good if they came before the council since there were complaints. Since it is within the time, but there were a complaint last year about it. So
I mean, the code seems to say that you can't for, more than so many minutes go above a certain decibel level. And that decibel level is actually quite low. I mean, it's not super low, but it's not, I mean, we've had discussions about somebody mowing their lawn over 10 minutes might actually technically be in violation of the code. And we didn't think that that's necessarily the spirit of the code, and we've never enforced it that way. But this was kind of a safety, or a safe maneuver in order so that if there were more complaints, it wouldn't have to pull the plug on it, so to speak.
Before we deliberate.
Yeah, before we deliberate, we do, yeah.
Yeah, this is just a question.
Yeah, just a question. Joe, what is the noise variance, or what is the noise window? What's the time frame?
I don't know offhand. I will have to actually, I'm sorry that I
I
don't.
read the thing, and I don't remember when the ending time is, but the magic starting time is 7:30.
The magic start time is 7:30 for?
10 o'clock.
It's till 10?
p.m.
Yeah, and-
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the variance isn't for time, it's for decibels.
Oh, but you're saying in the code,
In the code.
yeah, the morning of where the decibel level can go up, starts at 7:30 in the morning.
The noise variances are for things between 7:30 and say 10.
Yeah, and if it's going to go outside that, that's generally when we seek the variance, if it's going to be outside that. Okay, so in this case, it sounds like we're more about volume than the time parameter. Whereas,
I believe that's what I would assume. I'm
Okay.
not the applicant myself, but I assume that's why they want it.
well, and like I go back to when the Wild Hare usually asks for their noise variance, it's because they're running past 10 o'clock and the decibel level. Not that it's too loud. I can go louder. Okay. Any other questions for staff or, yes?
So does this mean then if it's a 7:30 on a Saturday morning and you want to run your mower, your leaf blower, or your chainsaw, you could do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's the time, that our code says, then that is what you can do. The problem is, there's a certain amount that, like ear-splitting noise, running, like revving a chainsaw really loudly at that. People are going to be called and then they're going to have to look and see if it's really unreasonable, if isn't a nice way to be neighborly, basically.
Right.
These things, it's hard to speculate in advance. The judicial system tries not to do that at all. They wait till it's ripe, is what they call it, because each fact pattern can be different. But I mean, you can have a barking dog that violates it if they bark consistently for, over 10 minutes straight. So, and you could ask yourself what's louder, a revving chainsaw. And I've actually heard, not here, but in Lane County, where there's a prosecutor, people intentionally running chainsaws at weddings to try to get back their, neighbor. So we don't fortunately find those sorts of things. But what we do is we wait for the fact pattern to emerge and then try to react to it. In this case, I think they're just trying to safely
Right.
protect themselves from the complaint that, you're a little bit louder than the decibel level that we should remain at, I guess.
So it's almost more of a courtesy, that they're extending to the neighborhood, really.
Correct.
I think that's the
Giving
idea.
people a chance to be heard in advance, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll close the public hearing on that piece. Deliberation aspects, anything? Councilor Parker.
Well, the Gator Grinder is a great thing. It brings in people from out of town. Too bad we don't have more hotel facilities so that these people can stay overnight.
There it is.
But my family members have participated in it, and I am 1,000% behind you on getting new money into this community instead of each aunt giving to their nephew and then vice versa. I like the fundraising model. On this one, I sort of take a libertarian point of view, that people can do whatever they want to do as long as they're not affecting their neighbors, and we seem to be affecting our neighbors. So I think you've got the message loud and clear, and you'll take it back to your fellow event coordinators, that there was a concern raised about the sound, and we want to be good neighbors to this thing. I also would like to ask Amanda to pass along to the chief of police the idea of us being able to find a way to capture complaints that come into 911 or the non-emergency line. I'm not sure that it's really set up that way, but since this has been raised by citizens as an issue, I'd like us to be able to track how many complaints that do come in on this. And if we get more complaints next year, then we'll have a more serious conversation. But I think we should proceed and expect this fine organization to act as a responsible neighbor.
All right. Councilor Coleman.
And I too, I think it's a wonderful event, and I think one of the things that I think could potentially make both parties happy is selection of song choices at those earlier hours. There's certain songs that are awful, I like that chainsaw noise volume, but so I would just say the use of good judgment and song choices could go a long way by the DJ, and I'm in favor of it.
All right. Any comments?
I'd like to thank you for coming, Ms. Russ, to show your opposition. And it is kind of it's a big fundraiser. It's for such a great cause, and I would aspire to actually compete myself. I just don't swim well, but it's a great fundraiser for the community. So, thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Chip, everybody, thank you for both being here. To the council's point here, I think, Chip, you kind of hear some of the dialogue about the 7:30 hour, and we'll, Beverly, if it's okay by you, we'll see how this year goes, and we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and hopefully make some volume adjustments for this year, or maybe scale it, maybe push it more to 8 o'clock than 7:30, but we'll keep an eye on it for this year. That seemed like it suffices. Great.
And Beverly, if the council could invite you to drop us an email or give us a call after the event, just for some feedback, so that we're not left with an absence of information. But the fact that you showed up here is terrific. But I'd also like to hear after the event if it got any better or not.
Great.
And maybe
Perfect.
someone can reach out to Ms. Ross as well.
Right, and reaching out to other comments that have been made. Thank you.
All right. Take a motion on approving the variance.
I've got it up here. Mr. Mayor, I move to grant a noise variance to Canby Gator Swim Club for their Gator Grinder on May 9th, 2015, from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay. Motion made by Council President Dale. Can I get a second, please?
Second?
Any further conversation at all on the matter? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes 6-0. Thank you all very much, appreciate it. Resolutions and ordinances.
The next item we have is ordinance 1412. This is an ordinance to amend Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 13.16, and repealing and replacing ordinance 1292 regarding the discharge of waste to the City of Canby sanitary and storm sewer systems, limiting such discharges only to those of acceptable types, characteristics, or concentrations, establishing a system of waste discharge permits and user fees, providing for enforcement, and declaring an emergency. And our city attorney will present this item.
Perfect. So this was a staff report that was put together by Dave Connor and Rick Robinson. Was actually originally slated to bring it to you, but the idea here is that we have a sewer ordinance currently in place that needed some cleaning up, some housekeeping in the way in which we have a public works director position that we're trying to fill, and I believe everything was wrongly calling that the public works manager, as well as there were all sorts of regulations and tables and things that as time passes, the Environmental Protection Agency as well as the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality change the limits on which certain pollutants can be released into waterways and such. And so this is just a kind of a housekeeping deal where there was enough changing that we went ahead and constructed around what is now the model sewer ordinance for the EPA. And in fact, this model ordinance was then ran by DEQ for approval ahead of this process. And so DEQ has looked at it and said, yeah, that is exactly, what, or we will sign off on it, I guess. And so we're here to say there's a, Environmental Protection Agency idea in place. Of course, federal law, state law, and local law all apply when it comes to this sort of thing. And this does leave open some opportunity for local control. It allows us to set slightly different, more stringent limits if we wanted by resolution, so that you don't have to go back and make ordinance again. So if a few things come down the road, maybe a few different types of industries come in that are releasing something that isn't really spoken for in these tables, we could take action by resolution without changing the whole ordinance. And it also allows us to work with local businesses in that if some of these, if they really kind of operate outside of some of these parameters, we can individually work with folks and have individualized user agreements where we can. Of course, you can't buck what the EPA or the DEQ actually say, but you can work with folks if they are truly outside of kind of the box that a lot of these things have to put people in when they're living in a system. So this is definitely something that staff, both Dave Connor, Rick Robinson, and then myself have looked at, and think because of the EPA model sewer ordinance to begin with, and because of DEQ that has already looked at it, that it's something that we would suggest or recommend that you adopt.
Questions for Joe on this ordinance?
You have questions.
I wish I had a good, cubic flow per inches.
Yeah. Well, see,
Very
because
dry
I wouldn't actually know where the rubber meets the road on a lot of sewer stuff.
I was just saying, you probably got a very brief education on EPA and sewer. Councilor Hyde, did you have something?
Yeah, I've listed
You
the
might be able to stump me pretty quickly.
It's a language, Public Works Manager versus Public Works Director, the language of it. So we're looking to hire a director. Did we ever have a so-called manager, or did we call the previous person director?
You know what's funny too, is I wanted to just make sure that or designee got put in there everywhere as well, because frankly, we can't, there's times where people, quit or God forbid, canned or whatnot, or aren't in that position. And so, no, but I mean, there are moments where there's vacancies, and then you have to have a designee to sign off on all of this stuff, because that's the person who's, managing it, enforcing it, all of that. So I wanted to make sure it said or designee. So it is kind of almost funny in a way that the nomenclature has to be changed, but we were, looking to change it anyway and incorporate kind of the best practices going forward. So if that's helpful.
That's great.
Joe, I'm going to play Stump the Attorney.
Oh, do it.
Is this, there seems to be regulations coming down from the EPA and DEQ pretty regularly in terms of wastewater and whatnot. Is this the first step of many to come that we're putting into place on part of, I guess, a greater trajectory and improving what gets put into water streams?
The only expert that I've run into and spoke with was our ex-employee, Darvin Trammell. And he was saying that they are ratcheting up certain limits on certain types of pollutants. I didn't know exactly from our conversations what they were, but, and they don't always apply to businesses in our town. Where they do, then that's where you have to react really quickly. But I get the feeling that they are, there is a pattern of becoming more and more strict about these things because the ability to test them is better and better all the time.
Right.
I think as technology goes up and also as science progresses and we find out what's bad for us, then suddenly there's reactions to those things, and then I think the science bears out if that means anything to us in the long run. A long-term study takes generations sometimes to figure out what kind of chemicals actually are harmful for us. So sometimes we're way behind in trying to figure out if certain levels in streams mean certain levels in, agriculture over here or certain levels in animals over here. So I think it's always going to be more to come, and I think it's always going to be our ability to test gets better. So it probably means more and more limits.
So, leads me to a question and then a comment. So I'll actually give my comment first. You made reference to the fact that we could probably set stricter regulations if we wanted to, but we cannot go the other direction and push back and say we find these to be too. Because it's not just pollutant; it's also temperature of the water that's being put back in as well.
And the thing is, if you have these higher order agencies telling you what to do, they really are supreme, and that the supremacy clause says that the federal government trumps, and then, state government trumps over us as well. And if they tell you to do something and they audit, cities all the time, if you don't perform what they ask you to do, they have the ability to fine you, tens of thousands of dollars if you don't do exactly what they ask you to do. So yeah, bucking the system in terms of trying to run fast and loose against those agencies just won't work for a city.
No, generally the APA does not allow fast and loose.
No.
Especially when they put new things in. Last question I think that I have is financial impact to the city on these right now. Is there any financial impact on?
I think this is really a non-financial impact, just because we would like to think this is almost the bookkeeping idea is to try to account for what's already happening, because we are always following the EPA and the DEQ standards, and we always strive to do the best we can to make sure that we follow all of those. So there should be no financial impact, in that this shouldn't change our behavior.
Okay. We don't have to account for any additional testing right now or added staff to do that, et cetera, right at this point.
Well, if there is additional testing that comes down, we have to do it regardless.
Right. I
This
understand that.
just kind of codifies the fact that we know we have to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. You did good, Joe.
Thank you.
Not bad. Any other comments or questions? No? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I move to approve ordinance 1413, an ordinance amending Chapter 13.16 of the Canby Municipal Code and repealing and replacing ordinance 1292 regarding sewer use and declaring an emergency to come up for second reading April 1st, 2015.
Thank you. And thank you for the tablet. My battery died. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Coleman to approve ordinance 14, is it 12 or 13, Kim?
Ours says 1-3.
Ordinance 1413.
Okay. 1413, an ordinance amending Chapter 13.16 of the Canby Municipal Code and repealing and replacing ordinance 1292 regarding sewer use and declaring an emergency to come up for second reading on April 1st, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. And I don't think there's no new business. Anything from staff and assistant city manager?
I have something quick. A couple weeks ago, you had asked for an update on the ODOT light project.
Yes, thank you.
And I did get some information from the ODOT signal project coordinator. It's not much, but Grant and Elm signals will be operational this Thursday or Friday. They will still have to remove some old equipment, pour the ADA ramps, and do some paving, but the lights themselves should be operational by the end of this week. The light at Ivy is a little bit different. They dug a hole and had to do some re-engineering, and they're in that process, so they've run into a few issues there, so that one's probably a couple months out.
What are the issues?
I believe that they dug a hole or put the hole in an area that is now not the right area.
Oh, okay. I
But
thought
then when they
maybe-
dug the new one, it became one big hole.
I was wondering if they
has some
had run
issues.
into an underground tank or something.
And I think it's just where the placement and how to engineer around that. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention. Another thing, we had got some notification of some overnight railroad closures from Union Pacific. The Pine Street crossing will be closed overnight, March 24th to 25th. Grant Street, March 26th, 27th, and Elm Street, March 31st and April 1st.
And then,
What was the Pine Street dates again?
March 24th to 25th.
Is this, they're just doing work on these, that's why they're being closed overnight?
Right.
Okay. Chief Davis, did you get that?
And I think
Make sure the north side's taken care of. All
yeah,
right.
there's been some notices. I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to say this. And then, as far as the library civic building project, we do have an RFP, request for proposal, out for a general contractor. And as Councilor Height had mentioned, we will be looking at reviewing proposals and selecting people for interviews, firms, the middle of the month. And we are closing on the final piece of property this Friday for that site. So things are moving along.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for holding down the fort the way that you have been. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Amanda.
And Joe and Kim, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Second opportunity for citizen input this evening. If you are so inclined and would like to step back to the podium and opine, you're welcome to do so. Chief Davis? Yes.
I just
Good
thought I
evening.
would, Jim Davis, Fire Chief. I thought I'd just give you a brief update. We've had quite a bit of activity in the city in the last couple weeks, but we started out with a successful CPR save at the Adult Center. I ran into the mayor shortly afterwards, in which an AED was put on the victim right away. CPR was started, and we continued CPR. We shocked, and we were successful in resuscitation of that individual. So this goes along with our campaign for Pulse Point and for CPR in the schools and AEDs in businesses. It's showing some success, and that's our ultimate goal, is to raise our 20% up to at least 40% survival rate within the city, specifically closer to the fire stations, but closer to where businesses are. And so our campaign for CPR you're well aware of the windstorm, and the winds did peak at 60 to 65, and the fire department was extremely busy. We had numerous down trees and power lines, but the thing to note is that it not only down power line, but that the amount of time it takes to have fire resources deployed on those, until which time the power company shows up. But that was throughout the fire district that we're exceptionally busy. And we also had a fairly substantial natural gas leak right on Redwood by the railroad tracks, and we had to evacuate approximately 30 units of the townhouses, and because we had explosive ranges of natural gas in the units themselves. Fortunately, we did have to go in and rescue somebody that did not hear the doorbell because of hearing problems into one of the residences that was in the explosive ranges to get the person out. That was successful, and nobody was hurt on that particular incident as well. But so it's been a busy couple weeks.
Yes, it has. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your service. Thank you.
Any other citizen input this evening? No? Okay. CAM action review this evening.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've granted a noise variance to the Canby Swim Club for May 9th, and you've approved ordinance 1413 to come up for second reading on April 1st.
Thank you very much. Joe, do we have an exec session tonight?
No.
No? All right. If there's nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I would move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
And Councilor Coleman jumped all over that one.
It's
There you go.
It's
It is not debatable.
Motion.
Motion made by Councilor Coleman quickly, and Councilor Hensley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone want to stay longer? All right. We're done. Good night, Canby. Thank you.